Good evening to all of you, and thank you for joining us on 13 Plus. I'm Mary Coleman. Hope you're enjoying your Monday so far. Let's jump right into our story for this evening. It's one of our investigative pieces. Now, when doctors and nurses who treat military members and their families make serious or even deadly mistakes, we've learned their identities are often being kept a secret. National investigative reporter Joyce Sturman uncovers mistakes, misconduct, and malpractice paid for with tax dollars and shielded from view in Doctor to Defense.
Moving them legs, he loved moving them legs.
Zamari Reese came out of the womb a mover and a shaker.
Zamari was a ball of fire from the beginning.
A force of nature in his military family. The kind of baby his mom, Tamika, says commanded attention, even at just a year old.
He was nice and chunky, huggable. And then 12 days after his first birthday, that's when everything turned the corner.
That's when court records say he went to Walter Reed Medical Center, the flagship military hospital known for treating presidents as well as service members and their families. Zamari was supposed to get ear tubes, a procedure hundreds of thousands of kids have each year, and have his adenoids removed, another common surgery for children. It was all supposed to be quick and simple. It wasn't.
This was him the morning of his surgery, and this is how they returned him to me.
Zamari came out of surgery, connected to tubes, covered in cords, in a coma, suffering a permanent brain injury caused by a lack of oxygen.
His heart stopped, and he had, it coded on the table during the surgery. And so I lost it because I didn't know, what happened.
Court records tell a story Tamika and her husband, Army Sergeant Douglas Reese, didn't learn completely until days after the surgery. They say the couple wasn't specifically warned that Zamari, who has sickle cell and reactive airway disease, was at greater risk for complications or even death. The records also claim an anesthesiologist working for the military repeatedly voiced concerns before his surgery and during. Still, the family's attorney, Robert Michael, says the doctors proceeded as Zamari struggled to breathe and his tiny heart started failing.
There was a huge jumbotron in the corner that was displaying all of this. Alarms were going off for 3 different things, all of which they ignored.
A lawsuit filed by the family against the government claims the resident handling the procedures carried on with the surgeries and an attending physician supervised until one anesthesiologist said, "You need to stop," just before Zamari's heart did.
How do you react when you find out exactly what happened in that operating room?
I'm angry. I wish that I never went through with the procedure.
And the sad part about this case is this procedure could have been stopped at any moment with no harm to this child.
The harm is permanent. Zamari, who celebrated a recent birthday with a dinosaur-themed party, can no longer talk or walk. Now 8 years old, he's wheelchair-bound and requires round-the-clock care from his mother just to keep him alive.
It's a nightmare.
6 years after surgery, the family's suit went to trial. A judge ruling 3 of the military doctors involved in Zamari's case breached the standard of care and were medically negligent, awarding the Reese family millions specifically for care he'll need for the rest of his life.
No amount of money will replace what they took from my child.
It's a bittersweet victory for the Reeses. The kind our national investigative team discovered has been shared by nearly 1,500 military families in just the last 15 years. The ones who filed malpractice claims or lawsuits and got monetary justice from the government. Our team analyzed the numbers from an annual report made to Congress that details payments for malpractice claims against providers in the armed forces. We uncovered a stunning amount of spending. Since September of 2009, those nearly 1,500 medical malpractice claims in the military system have cost taxpayers almost $1 billion.
That tells me there's a very significant problem with military medicine that needs to be looked at and addressed. And it would start, in my mind, with holding these doctors and the other folks involved individually accountable for what's happened here.
Accountability can be avoided to some extent because the government pays the cost of military malpractice, and the providers involved aren't made public. That annual report to Congress doesn't name names. In the civilian world, though, malpractice judgments are often included in a doctor's profile on state medical board websites anyone can access. But that's not often the case for many military providers.
There's no reason for the military to shield them. And right now, the secrecy isn't really helping anyone except for people who are bad actors.
Steve Ellis, a Coast Guard veteran, runs Taxpayers for Common Sense, a government watchdog group. He says the malpractice spending raises big questions Congress should be asking about military health care quality and transparency. Right now, the Defense Health Agency, which oversees military health care, reports malpractice claims and some disciplinary action to those state boards that license doctors. Then it's up to the board to decide whether that's made public, something we haven't seen widely done.
You can still get some level of data that isn't going to hurt anybody's privacy, but is going to shed some more light on the problem and the issue. And the government should be putting this information out already. It's embarrassing.
Our National Investigative Team has been battling the Defense Health Agency and Department of Defense for nearly 2 years, trying to get information about doctors and other healthcare providers involved in military malpractice cases and disciplinary action. Since May of 2022, we've filed 9 Freedom of Information Act requests with both departments, as well as the individual branches of service. Despite being told early on we would be given records, our requests have been repeatedly denied.
You're doing these stories to let everyone know the truth, and the DoD is fighting you from letting you know the truth. Why are they hiding it? Why are they hiding it? Because it's bad.
After the threat of potential action from our legal team, we were finally given data never before seen by the public. It pulls back the curtain on a secretive system that further shields health providers working for the military from public accountability. It shows that between 2018 and 2022, there have been at least 478 military medical providers reported by the Department of Defense to something called the National Practitioner Data Bank. That's a confidential government repository that houses disciplinary records and malpractice judgments against healthcare professionals across the country. It includes cases involving misconduct and mistakes, even injuries and deaths. But service members and members of the public can't see who's in there.
So there is no law or act, as they say, that requires them to share this information. Does that need to change? Sure, it does. One more thing that the DoD should do, but they don't need a law to do that. They could do it on their own. They could just provide this information.
It's the kind of information attorney Natalie Quam knows well after representing dozens of families who filed malpractice claims against the military. We took her that never-before-seen data from the DHA. It includes stats about military providers who've had discipline that's largely kept quiet, including at least 160 suspensions of 30 days or more reported to the databank. Nearly 200 cases where providers had action taken against their privileges to practice, and more than 250 cases where peer review panels found military providers failed to meet the basic standard of care.
How can you have that many incidences and that many problems and that much cost? The scarier part is, who are they?
Our information requests asked for the names of military providers reported by the Defense Health Agency. We didn't get them, but we're continuing to fight. The agency wouldn't do an interview and did little more than cite federal code when asked why discipline involving problem military providers is kept secret from the service members they treat.
My husband put those boots on before my son's injury, and he continued to put those boots on after.
Although her husband has ended his service to his country, Tamika Harris-Reese is soldiering on with the task of caring for their son. Zamari Reese, another casualty of military malpractice.
After the incident, it showed me what the military really is. But at the end of the day, we have to learn to forgive, but I won't never forget.
Now, none of the doctors involved in the Reese case have any disciplinary action listed in their state medical board records. Our National Investigative Team also shared our basic findings with congressmen and congressional lawmakers, some veterans themselves who've been vocal about the care given to service members, and they did not respond. You're going to leave you with a live look of the Tucson metro area. That sunset is looking gorgeous out there. We hope you will join us for 13 News Live at 10 for more of your local news and weather.